A man from Inglis is accused of road rage, but he wasn't driving anywhere. Investigators say he fired a shotgun towards a vehicle he thought drove recklessly.
He then led deputies on a manhunt after shooting the passenger in the leg. TV20's Itlali Salache spoke to the driver of the vehicle, who says the incident should have never happened.
The biggest thing is why. You know, why did that happen? None of that should have happened.
This quiet dirt road suddenly filled with law enforcement. Deputies arrested 63-year-old David Andrew Ruttinger from Inglis after a manhunt. I spoke with a driver who won't share their name for their own safety.
I stopped the vehicle and started yelling, "I'm your neighbor, don't shoot, I'm your neighbor."
Deputies found a 47-year-old man with a gunshot wound to the leg at the intersection of Southeast 201 Street and State Road 40 East.
The guy that was in the passenger seat jumped out, didn't go toward the guy. He went straight out beside the vehicle and yelled at the guy, "What are you doing?" And the guy shot again.
The victim and witnesses say Ruttinger fired 2 shots at the vehicle that was driving down this road. And shortly after the shots were fired, Ruttinger fled the scene, bringing a Marion County Sheriff's Aviation unit to assist.
I think once this gentleman realized that he had made a very bad decision and saw law enforcement arriving in the area, he panicked, and he told our deputies he panicked. He ran and he hid in the woods.
Ruttinger led deputies on a manhunt in nearby woods and was arrested shortly after. Ruttinger claimed the victim was recklessly driving, and that's why he fired his gun.
Unless your life is in danger, you do not need to involve a firearm.
Deputies arrested Ruttinger on multiple charges, including aggravated battery with a firearm and aggravated assault with a firearm.
I'm not sure what the man's problem was.
He was booked into the Levy County Jail on a $307,000 bond. Itlali Salache, TV 20 News.